Okay, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Let's contribute to the conversation going on about the tragedy, really, over in Borno State. Not just in Borno State, we'll come to it. We'll also be looking at the same kind of a situation in Plateau and Benue states. I'm talking here about the killings, the avoidable killings of citizens in that area. Governor Zulum of Borno State has lamented at a special expanded security meeting in Government House on Tuesday the killings and the fact that there's a resurgence of Boko Haram. And he acknowledged that the presidency, everybody has done what can be done. The state government has always cooperated with the military, but this has happened, and he felt it needs to be said aloud that this problem is still very much with us. Okay, our guest is Brigadier General Kukasheka Usman, retired. He's a strategic communications expert and former director of Nigeria Army Public Relations. A fine morning to you, General.
Hello? Hello?
General?
I could barely hear you.
Oh, okay. I think they've done something about it. Is it better now? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Now I can hardly hear you. As you spoke, it went down. When you complained, it came up. Now it has gone down. We'll see how it goes. But can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so well, thank you very much, General, for coming on the program. And many Nigerians will be joining the governor in lamenting this situation about the resurgence of Boko Haram in the state. An indication that government, no other way to put it, is losing ground. Now, this is very worrying, especially after we have thought that we really had gotten on top of this problem, and then suddenly for us to now hear that, contrary to that notion, we are actually losing ground there. First of all, give me your general commentary on that, and perhaps you might have ideas as to how this has happened.
Well, first and foremost, I think not just the state governor.
I can't hear you, General.
Every other well-meaning Nigerian has every reason to be concerned about the recent happening in the northeast, and in particular in Borno State. With the kind of resurgence of attack, and just is more or less like a wake-up call. That is my own understanding to it. That it is not yet uhuru in our counter-insurgency effort in this country and counter-terrorism. What is even more disturbing is the level of sophistication of this terrorist group, moving from IED, suicide bombing, to isolated attacks. Now they are embarking on the use of technology, not just for surveillance. They are using it to carry out attack, armed drones. So it's more or less like a wake-up call on each and every one of us to see what brought about this resurgence and how do we go about it. Take, for instance, now, how did they come about this weapon, the drones, and who taught them, and all the rest of them. But beyond that, again, there were some foreigners that were caught. They are not even Africans. In the theater, now they are being interrogated. So how did they come to this country? I agree we have porous borders. Possibly they did not fly in, or they came by road, and so on. So these are the issues that, I can understand the concern of the governor and every other person, in the country, in respect of that. Here we have the military. They are doing marvelously well, and because if you compare what was happening, in other parts of the world, that have had similar experience. Colombia spent about 58 years fighting insurgents before they were able to subdue them. And here we are, in almost less than a decade, we are able to, make progress to the extent that we have, despite the affiliation, since 2016 with ISIS and what have you. So these are the issues. So it's more or less like a wake-up call that we have to. And when you look at attacks like Wajirko, for quite a number of times, Sabon Gari Damboa has always been the center of attraction for these terrorists, even the Abubakar Shekau faction. So what is it that makes it so attractive? And then again, the remnants of Boko Haram terrorists hibernating on Mandara mountains and bit a bit the geopolitics that is going on. You remember now some of our neighboring countries, they have no love lost between us and them. Take, for instance, Niger and the rest of them. So, there is proliferation of arms and insurgent groups elsewhere. And with the kind of unsavory relationship, we might not have the necessary support and cooperation that we require. So I think the most important thing, like I said, is a wake-up call. So it's a collective responsibility on the part of the military, on the part of security forces, on the part of the government, not just the federal government, but even Borno State government and the good people of Borno State. Because yesterday, as we were having discussion, there were other isolated attacks that were not reported. But be it as it may, if you look at it again, yes, it is in the fringes of the military, locations or bases. But that notwithstanding, then we need the support of the people, just like they were cooperating in the past, to the extent that these people were laying down their arms in drums. In quite a large number. Then, of course, Borno State needs the support of the federal government and even the civil society organization, international non-governmental organization, because the Borno State initiative, I think, is solely be funded by the state government. Do they have the resources? Because there is an issue of youth, boldness, and restiveness in the state. So it needs to be supported, with the Miaga resources, so that initiative and the governor's effort to settle people go on progressively. So it's quite a challenging task, but I think it's possible. We can mitigate it, unless, however, but it requires the support of each and every component of the Nigerian society, be it the security, the government, and the people themselves. Because the issue of conspiracy of silence, because these guys do not operate in isolation. People are giving them information. People are giving them support. So why is it now, when we have enjoyed semblance of peace in that state for quite a number of years, 3 years, so to speak, and more? So basically that is the issue.
Well, yeah, and one is quite concerned as to how we shall get back on top of it, seeing as we can't depend on, shall I say, the contribution, the security contribution of Niger before. Niger has a very extensive border with Nigeria, and it is thought that, as you have just indicated, even though you explained that even these fighters that they're looking at now are not even African. But, Niger is not interested anymore in the kind of joint arrangement we had to police our borders, and it's a very extensive border. Even the Nigeria army itself, I wonder, can it devote all of its resources to that particular corridor? So one is, I think I heard somebody say, look, it's not a matter of being helpless, it's a matter of being frustrated. So what are we going to do? Because all the best efforts have now led us up to where these people, we've always been told by experts like your good self that, look, this kind of war, it's not a standard kind of a war, and so people should be a bit more understanding when they want to talk about our lack of the kind of progress we would have liked to see.
Well, I think you are quite right. The thing is that, yes, people are frustrated and all the rest of the thing. But the truth is that I think all is not lost. I mean, all hope is not lost in the sense that I think we have started in the right direction. Take, for instance, the meeting that the governor called and or rather held with all the relevant stakeholders, the security agencies, the traditional rulers, as well as other components of the Borno State society. So the thing is that now I think we ought to have been having such conversation more frequently than at this point in time. But that notwithstanding, I believe there will be cross-fertilization of ideas. They will hear from the security agencies and, of course, the community leaders. And I'm so happy the Sheikh of Borno has spoken and all the rest of the thing. I think they will harness those ideas. Whatever can be done within the theater of Borno State, as it were, I'm sure it will be done. That is one. Secondly, but I'm so sure, again, because there were calls. Take, for instance, even the Borno State governor has talked about, equipping the military more, especially the use of technology, which is quite important. And that is where the federal government comes into play, because they own all these things. No, I have to, because I'm not hearing very well. So, sorry, there was an interruption. So what I'm trying to say here is that there is a collective responsibility. The Borno State government has started in the right direction, and of course the security forces have keyed in, and what remains is for the federal government to see how best it can, not just support of the security agencies, but I made mention of the geopolitics, what is happening in the West African sub-region and what is happening in the Sahel region too. See how best they will take advantage of it so that Nigeria's interest is served, in terms of mitigating the proliferation of these armed groups and the arms itself. Because unless we do so, we will just be moving in, cycles, because there is no doubt about the fact that there were vested interests, at play, hence the resurgence of what we are seeing.
Well, indeed, vested interests at play. It even makes it more complicated. Especially, it was very worrying. What you've just said, a lot of viewers that are also listening will probably be, learning about that for the first time, that we're now even contending with mercenaries. I don't know what else to call them if they are fighting on the side of the bad guys and they are not Africans. What can be, in fact, the strength of the enemy in this? Do we actually know the strength of the enemy? Because we used to say, perhaps a bit flippantly, that these people are running rings around our men in uniform. It might be a slight exaggeration, but certainly they seem to be having the upper hand. They seem to be able to do what they want without undue fear of being challenged.
I don't think so that they tend to be having an upper hand, in the sense that these are attacks. Yes, lives were lost, equipment were lost, but if you look at it or juxtapose it to, along with what we had been having before, you can understand this is more or less like isolated cases that can easily be mitigated. But that notwithstanding, I think there is a need for people to understand that really something is fundamentally wrong. And how do we go about doing it? First and foremost, how did we come about these foreigners, in the theater? Unlike in the past, yes, we have had instances, actually, we have, even when I was in service, some light-skinned persons were caught, fighting along with the Boko Harams. But basically, it was more or less like at a tactical level. But now it has moved beyond operational level to even strategic level, in the sense that it will shock you to know that there are even foreign arm dealers within this theater. So how do they come? And to what extent are we tracing the origins of these people and their sponsors and the arms? And what is the federal government of Nigeria doing about it? And that is why the issue geopolitics come into play. We just have to engage these people. And of course, there is no doubt about the fact that Nigeria is the darling of the world. There is serious competition about the resources, about the country as it were. Of course, some of these, our neighboring countries, they are now in military administration as against democratic governance, and the unsavory relationship with ECOWAS and what have you. And of course, themselves too, they claim to be championing independence and what have you, but of course they are hobnobbing with other superpowers. There are other superpowers that have lost out. So somewhere along the line, somebody wants to covet something, out of Nigeria and some of these countries, and definitely there are competition and all the rest. That is just one. But then again, the other aspect is that you have to look at the ideological aspect of it. 2016. A faction of the Boko Haram paid allegiance to ISIS and, of course, Islamic State in the Maghreb and what have you. So basically, they are unrelenting. And when you look at the trajectory of terrorism everywhere or insurgency, they remain resilient. So what do? You have to be ahead of them. But of course, you need credible information and intelligence, and that is where the community has come into play, and that is why we are talking about enhancing the social economic well-being of an average Nigerian. When you look at the other, the attack in Gambarungala, Gambarungala is more or less like a border local government. To what extent are you integrating them into the overall, socio-economic development of the society, so that they will have greater sense of belonging in the Nigerian state and what have you, so that when these people come with their, lofty or enticing things, they will not budge into it. So basically, this is the way you need to look at it, and that is the way you need to mitigate it.
I hear we have a caller from Benue State. I don't know if I got the name right. Is it Chima? Okay. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. Please go ahead now.
Yes. I wish to say that the insecurity in Benue State, north central Nigeria, is very, very alarming and bad. Benue is food basket of the nation. As I speak with you, we can hardly even produce food to feed even one local government in the state. This is very bad.
Okay, you've moved over to Benue State. We were actually going to get there, but please continue. Well, right now, Brigadier Usman retired. He's speaking about Borno, and Boko Haram antics in Borno. But
yes.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yes, so please, we wish that the federal government will look into the case in Benue, because things are bad. The whole thing has made life very difficult for us here in Benue. Farmers can no longer go to the farms. We are basically farmers in the state. So I wish that the federal government...
As I've just told you, that is the slated for our next topic. So I don't know if you could kindly call in again so as not to, even though they are both security related, but our guest, is Brigadier General Kukashenka Usman, retired. He's talking about the situation in Borno. Okay, so please, we'll come out. That will be our second topic of conversation. But thank you very much for calling in the first instance. Okay. So, General, it's security all over the place. Now, this...
I heard him.
Did you want to add anything, or did you... even though I sort of explained that, look, let's not mix up matters. But
I don't think there is anything to add. There is nothing to add. And again, if he's talking about that, what of Plateau State, what of the northwestern part of the country, and so many other places, of course, I believe they have heard him.
Indeed. Now, we go back again in trying to look at what happened with Borno State, where the governor there is lamenting the resurgence of Boko Haram. I mean, it's worrying if it's coming from him. He's long been in this theater, and you know, there was a time when he was even announcing, you know, successes. So for about 3 years, we didn't hear anything. But then you did say that it is now clear that, look, these terrorists, they're very resilient. And I'm even surprised that they didn't know that. And what we tend to do, perhaps, correct me if I'm wrong, when we were getting announcements that, oh, Boko Haram is on its last legs, it's on the back foot and all of that, maybe that was just giving them time to regroup, as opposed to us having this kind of an attitude about, there's, you know, the Yoruba have an expression that a wounded snake is still dangerous. The only good snake is a dead one. And in terms of, you know, warfare and that kind of a thing. So when we say that, aha, we've beaten them back enough, apparently not so, because they withdraw to the mountains, to the bush, to wherever it is they withdraw to, and take their time, and then regroup, and then come back in this way, which unfortunately catches our people off guard. So it's like, do we need the reorientation? And it certainly won't be from programs like this that the military will know the nature of the beast that they are confronting.
I think it is not even, I think particularly the security agencies, and I am so sure the military, every operation there is always an after-action review. And I think at both defense and army headquarters level, there are, and other services, various departments of operation or training and innovation, they have a specific department or a cell about lesson learned. So everything that has transpired, they look at it critically. What is it that they have done right, and what brought about the success, and what is it that they have done wrong, and what is the impact, and how do they mitigate it. And so it's, like I said, it is more or less like a wake-up call, going back to drawing board. And knowing the people, they are well experienced, right from the theater commander, the general officer commanding, and the sector commander, the component commander. These are people that we know. In fact, they have had experience. Some of them, this is about the third time they are having command. They have been commanding officers. They have been brigade commanders. Now they are GOC or theater commanders, as the case may be. So basically, they are familiar with the terrain. But the most important thing, I think, is to ensure that it goes down to tactical level, to ensure that those people at both operational and tactical level, what is it that they are having challenges with? It could be information, it could be technology, it could be, I mean, equipment and all the rest of the things. So these are the things. But I'm so sure lessons have been learned, and I can rest assure you, I don't speak for them, but I know, given the conversation I've had with some of them, they are coming back with renewed vigor. But I believe they need the support and encouragement of other components of society. Because like I said, these people, there is still the issue of conspiracy, of silence on the part of some of these people. And sometimes you wonder
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon for interrupting you, but let me bring on Mr. Lasisi, who has called in from Ibadan. I don't want to keep him waiting for too long. Good morning, Mr. Lasisi.
All right, thank you. Oh, we might have lost him, right?
I think, yes, please continue, General. I think we lost. Apologies, Mr. Lasisi, who called in from Ibadan. If you were to try and call in again and you can make it, I'd come to you immediately. So, General, you were just explaining before
like I was saying, I think what is required, again, in addition to what the authorities will do, is for the society to support, because the issue of politicization of security should be a thing on the past, because we have seen where it has taken us to, and it ought to no good. Therefore, everybody should be on the same plate to see how best they can contribute, you know, whether you are in governance, whether you are in opposition, whatever. The most important thing is to make this country safe and secure, and everybody has a role to play. So, and like the way it is, these guys are no magicians. They don't have two heads. They only sit down and plan and of course make use of the available resources to them, be it human or material. And most important thing is the human, because most of them, they are there in the bush. How do they get information? Somebody somewhere gives them information.
Indeed.
Somewhere,
General, sorry again, yet again, I'm going to try. Good morning, Mr. George, calling in from Lagos.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead.
Good morning to the General. Uncle Yori, I heard the General say something, that there are vested interests in the insurgents of Boko Haram in Borno State. I would like him to expatiate on that assertion. But it's very unfortunate that this is happening. If it needs be, can the government not seek foreign help in these things, because it's just getting too much, Uncle Yori. There is no state, you don't have bandits and kidnappers. And now Boko Haram is coming forward again. How are we going to fare like this? The second thing I want to suggest to the government is the Tucano jets we have, we are not allowed to use them maximally. The type of banditry we have, some of them are even more serious than the Boko Haram sect. How can't we use, and the military know their camps, how can't we use these equipment to deal with them with the permission of the producers that sold them to us? I understand they are the ones that created limits to which these things can be used. They should come and see what we are suffering here and sympathize with us so that we can maximize the use of this equipment and deal with these things, you know, maximally as well.
Okay.
I think that's just the way to go.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Mr. George.
Word of life.
Yes. Okay. Well, General, would you like to react to that?
Yeah, I would like to thank Mr. George for his contribution. If only he had been with us much longer or earlier than now, he would have understood that I have elucidated in respect of this issue of foreign or rather vested interests. Why? Because I made mention of the fact that there were some foreigners. Right now they have been caught in the theater and they are undergoing interrogations. Some of them, they are not even Africans, apart from, you know, so how do they come about? So they might have been sponsored by some other components. And of course, I made reference to the fact that given the unsavory relationship with some of the West African countries and Sahel, there is competition, especially on the part of superpowers, to see how best they can protect their own interests. And they will do everything possible to ensure, you know, they destabilize these countries. And unfortunately, some of the neighbors, they do not even understand. They don't even look at the enemies elsewhere, but they are looking at their neighbor as the enemy. So the level of cooperation and understanding that we are supposed to get, we don't get it. So that is one component of it. And again, like I mentioned, there are people, every day I kept making reference to the war economy. War economy is an economic system that revolves around complex situations. Whether you like it or not, there are people that are benefiting, even though people are dying, people are being displaced, you know, infrastructure is being destroyed. People are benefiting from it. And to them, they don't have, they don't have qualms. All they want is to get money or whatever they can get out of it. So
it's an unfortunate fact of war
that I'm talking about.
Okay. Sorry, sir. One moment, sir. Chidi in Kafanchan. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in, sir.
Good morning, the General in the studio. I want to commend the governor of Borno State for crying out. How I wish so many other governors in Nigeria will call up.
Oh, okay. Unfortunately, that call dropped. But that statement that he made, that he actually commends Professor, Babagana Zulum for, speaking up. And that aspect of it, he's done so much, we all know because it was constantly being reported. But the way that gentleman started is that he wanted to actually commend the governor for speaking up about the nature of the problem on our hands now? I don't know if...
I wish the network was not so
that
bad,
he could have continued to expatiate a bit.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to also ask him question, which part of Kafanchan is he, because I was privileged to attend secondary school in Kafanchan. So
okay.
So it's more or less like, I wanted to ask him whether from Kafanchan town or Kaninko or Ngwarimi or, you know.
Indeed.
So, but that notwithstanding, like I said earlier on, of course, that is why it's understandable the way the governor felt the way he did. Why? Because he's doing marvelously well. There is no doubt about that fact. And here you are doing very well, and suddenly you start to have some impediments, so we can understand. And as such, he started with the right kind of steps, in the sense that calling for this stakeholders meeting, you know, components of the Borno State society were all there yesterday, you know, when they dissected the problem. And I'm so sure they will come out with, way forward, as it were. So it's understandable and it's very commendable of him. But this is not the first time. His predecessor, the vice president, has also once cried out in respect of these issues, especially poor equipment of the military and what have you. So basically this is it, and that is what we want with leaders. But at the same time, I think constructive engagement is equally very important, in the sense that because these guys are always there with them, so first and foremost, we need to ask them questions. Come, you have been doing so well. Why is it that now things are getting to slide back? So taken in confidence, I believe they will, because there are certain things that's above, they cannot be said, you know, in front of the cameras and what have you. And that is why, again, possibly there are certain things that Borno State ought to have done, or government ought to have done, or it is federal government, because sometimes they will use them as a lynching pad, to talk to, the spheros and all the rest. But be it as it may, I think it's quite commendable that he has done so, and it's quite commendable that he's doing so, and quite commendable that he's so concerned.
Indeed. And in expressing his concern, he was still mindful and appreciative of the efforts of the federal government so far. But it does point to the fact that we've got to dig deep and come up with something more in this particular challenge that we have.
Exactly. And I even commend him, because he made a case for the military, especially the use of technology. Because, this thing has changed. The trajectory has changed, because the insurgents are now using drones, not for surveillance. They are using armed drones. That means we ought to be ahead of them. And, somebody has made reference. The caller is before George. Is it before George called? He made reference to the issue of the use of Tikano. But you remember, we have some people in the Nigerian society, regardless of the level of atrocities these guys are committing, they used to allege that the military or the security forces are using disproportionate force and what have you. So that is why there is need. Yes, there is need to educate all Nigerians, so that you understand, when you are faced with an existential threat, the starting point is to see how can you mitigate the issue of the legal framework, that whatever you are doing is within the ambit of the law, so that you can also have the ability to use all those weapons at your disposal. Take, for instance, we have had instances where people were crying in the Northwest about the use of certain caliber of weapons, when the bandits, so to speak, were shooting aircraft. So to what extent, how can you fold your arms and all the rest? And we have had instances even in Sudan with the UN. And that is why, when you look at the casualty we sustained in those days, bulk of our troops were shot in the back, because they told them that you cannot use Chapter 7. So these are the issues. And we need to educate Nigerians so that they will understand. Look, all these things that we are talking, we are doing, will only happen in an atmosphere where we are secured and safe. Where it is not, the environment is not secure and safe, you fend for survival. So we don't want to reach that. Let us mitigate the problem. And there is a price that had to be paid.
Well, we're going to have to leave it here. Brigadier General Kukashenka Usman, retired strategic communications expert and former director of Nigeria Army Public Relations. We thank you, sir, for for your, for coming on and sharing your perspectives with us. Thank you very much.